To this point, we have learned a lot about the structure of an HTML page. In specific, we've been talking about the actual HTML elements like the header, the div, paragraphs, the two main portions of an HTML document, the head that holds metadata, as well as the body that holds the actual visual content of the web page. Let me go ahead and make that a little bit bigger. All right. The body that actually holds the visual content that we actually see on the screen. Now, I've got my Chrome developer tools open right here. We've had some experience with that. It's the three dots in the upper right hand, more tools, and then developer tools, or the shortcut right there. That's for Mac. You'll have to look and see what it is on Windows if you're using Windows. All right, so we know the structure of an HTML document. We know that HTML elements define the structure of a document and how that document is to be read by the browser as it interprets that HTML. Once we understand the document structure and we begin to lay out that structure based on the content and the purpose of the page, the next important part of web development is the look and feel. How do we take this document structure that we have and how do we make it look the way we want it to? Graphical, appealing, the images in the right place, the colors the right color, the font the right font with the right size and the right font color. As well as how do we position this content on the page in the places we want? How do we get effects like these cubes with these pictures and icons where it kind of does a shift up and down as you scroll, right? These are all attributes of another scripting language that we use in web development called CSS. So we've got HTML as a scripting language that has to do with the structure of an element. Actually, let me correct myself really quick. Not a scripting language, but a markup language is the proper term. When we talk about scripting languages, I usually refer to JavaScript, so I used the wrong term there. What I mean is markup languages. So HTML is a markup language that defines the structure of the document. And when we want to talk about the look and the feel, or the way the HTML structure looks when it's presented in the browser to the user, we're talking about another markup language called CSS. And those are Cascading Style Sheets. So we're going to stick in the browser right here for this video, and we are going to talk about CSS or Cascading Style Sheets really quick. And we're going to go and give ourselves a nice overview of what it is and how it works. Now, CSS exists with HTML. If we don't have HTML, there's really no purpose for CSS. So they go hand in hand. CSS complements the HTML structure by allowing us to provide that look and feel that we're after. In your browser, when you're in the Chrome developer tools, as we've seen before, we can click on the upper left little arrow icon right here and we can select visual elements inside of our HTML page. The cool thing is that when we've done this in the past, we get to see a little drop-down box that pops below the element like we see right here with the anchor tag. And we get to see what the tag's name is, but then we also get to see some attributes of that tag, like its color, the font being used, what the background color is, and what padding has been added to it, as well as the size of the element itself. And those are all attributes of the HTML tag, but are modified by the CSS. And so here, if we go ahead and select this A tag right here, and we go over here to Styles, we get to see the styles that have been applied to that element specifically. And if we go all the way to the bottom, we get to see that we have inherited styles, so styles that come from other style sheets or from the browser itself. And then we get to see that as we move up the chain on the right-hand side here, we get to see more and more styles applied to that particular tag that we have highlighted right here in the HTML structure. And the really cool thing here is that CSS is inherited or cascades, and we'll get into depth in that in another video. So if you don't quite understand that, that's okay right now. But what we get to see here is that all of these styles get applied to this HTML element. And in the end, we end up with those styles that we saw when we hovered over that element when we were selecting it. And here we can actually see what CSS looks like. We get to see the CSS queries that actually help us select a particular element in the document. And then we get to see CSS attributes that we can alter the values of in order to create changes or modifications to the visual appearance of our screen, of our web page in the browser. So let's look at this really quick. Now we know this is an anchor tag that we selected, and we can see right here that we have an anchor tag right here selected. And then we can see that this anchor tag is being modified by the global CSS style sheet. And in this particular style, we are modifying the position of the anchor tag using the background position. And we are setting the value of that to these values right here. We've got a value right here of a negative 242 pixels and then 0 pixels. And we'll get into what those mean when we start to talk about CSS attributes specifically, especially when we're dealing with values that alter position and size of a particular element. And then we can see that also from the global CSS style sheet, we are selecting A tags that fit a certain query right here. This is the CSS query we've got going. And we'll learn about queries and how they are created in order to get the right element or elements. And we can see that based on this style that's been applied, we are changing the display mode of the particular element. We're changing its width. We are changing its height. We are affecting the padding or the space that is surrounding it. We're providing a background for it, and that's going to be, it looks like an image right here. We've got a nav icon. And then also we are providing a background color for that. And we are saying, don't repeat the image. So we're getting just that single information icon right there, right here. And then we're setting the alignment of the text. We're setting the color of the text. And it's that dark gray, as you can see right here, dark gray. And then we're doing a text transform to make sure that any text that's in here is uppercase. And because, as we can see, the About Us is actually all uppercase, whereas in the HTML structure right here, we can see that it's actually camel-cased, where we've got the first letter in capital form and the rest are lowercase, and that's what it is in the actual document. But through this transform, we are modifying that text right here to be all uppercase. So CSS has a lot of power that it provides for us in adjusting the look and feel and position of elements within the structure of our HTML. Here's an example of selecting a general CSS query that selects just an A tag. And you can see this color right here is actually crossed out. And that is because in the chain up here, the color gets modified to that dark gray color right here. So right here we see where cascading and inheritance actually takes place and a value of an attribute gets overridden. And we'll get into depth on that in the video about inheritance and cascading of style sheets. Here we've got text decoration, we've got an outline, we don't want outline on it. And we'll get into, and you will be able to study up and read on all of these CSS attributes. There are tons of attributes that we can use on elements in CSS to change those elements in HTML. So this is an introduction to CSS and what it is and what it does. So the main highlights are, it takes an HTML document which defines structure or the semantics of the HTML document. And then we apply CSS or cascading style sheets to that document to change the look and feel. And pretty much through CSS we can change the entire look and feel of our HTML pages.